Hi guys, it seems to be quite a while since we've managed to do a podcast. It's not a podcast, it's a vlog. So welcome back to SMME Clinic. I think with the economy opening up and lots happening in our support of SMEs, you will see a lot of other activity, but it's my great pleasure to welcome Sibusiso Sagoda from Leap today. And we've been really looking forward to this particular conversation because he himself comes from an extensive SME background and SME support, 7+ years. He shared his journey with me earlier before we started the interview. He's worked for multiple organizations, but his passion and his understanding of the entrepreneur is really something that I think we're going to enjoy in our discussion today. And what is that topic? I obviously would love Sibusiso to welcome himself and just introduce himself, but I will give you a little teaser. So today what we'll be looking at is how your thinking style as an entrepreneur can affect how you run your business. And you know, they say it's mind over matter. So as soon as we looked at this topic and just reading all the background information, so I cannot wait to share this with our audience and just to have a really in-depth discussion with you today. But firstly, welcome.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you so much. And as you mentioned, my background has been working with SMEs, has been trying to support SMEs, trying to find the quickest ways or the cheapest ways SMEs can actually be assisted. More specifically, the person behind the business, because we normally look at the business in terms of the numbers, but we forget the thinking of the person, how they can equip themselves in terms of running their business better. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I just hope the guys are going to find it informative.
Well, I cannot see how they won't. So just, maybe as a starting point, you spoke a lot previously around motivation. So first of all, looking, what is your motivation for even being an entrepreneur? And it might be stating the obvious, but I think it's always good to reflect on that as a business owner, especially in these times where it's a lot harder and we're doing it maybe for not the same reasons we started out for. What are those reasons?
No, definitely. COVID on its own has just given us an opportunity to see what inspires people, what drives people, and forced certain people who didn't even have the passion to get into entrepreneurship to actually get to entrepreneurship. So there's many reasons why people start businesses, but the ones I'll just make mention of, maybe the top 4 most important one, in that it's your financial stability. This is where you get into entrepreneurship because you want to make a lot of money. You get into entrepreneurship because maybe you just got retrenched or demoted and you are no longer happy with the money that you're earning. So as a result, that motivates you to get into entrepreneurship. And the second one, which usually is the most qualified in terms of entrepreneurs, are guys that were working and either did not like the company culture, did not like where the company was taking them, or did not like the career in total. And what they decide is to say, you know what, I'm better off if I go and start something on my own. And the third one would then be, it comes from an internal drive of self-actualization. You find that you've done this job, you've raised your kids, you've studied, you've bought the car and stuff like that, but you still feel as if there's a problem you can solve. And through entrepreneurship, that's where you can start the problem. And mostly in self-actualization, that's where we see your social entrepreneurs most of the time. Guys that see a problem and they know that no other person can solve the problem like they would, and then they go and start the business. And the most popular one, lastly, is your market opportunity. This is when someone sees something in the market and they think that no one is taking up that opportunity, and they'll go for the opportunity. And so pretty much, yeah, those are the motivations. Even though there's a lot more, those are the motivations that entrepreneurs, when they start a business, would likely lean towards to say, this is my reason why I want to get into entrepreneurship.
They definitely seem to be the more common drivers. I agree with you.
Definitely,
and tell me, so those are the kind of the decisions to get involved. But now an individual is motivated by certain reasons like that. How does their thinking style and their approach to problems and risks now affect the way that they run their business as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur. All right. So every person is, I would say, they always say, every person is unique, but in entrepreneurship, every entrepreneur is driven by their thinking, is driven by, like we said, their motivation. So in terms of how we work in our assessments, the work that we do, the assessments we put together for entrepreneurs, we look at the person. And there's an assessment that we currently use that looks at the thinking style, and they put them into 4 categories. And those 4 categories allow us to be able to pinpoint what kind of support we can give to this person and what is their thinking whenever we are presented with a problem, or whenever they are presented with a problem. For an example, if a person, just before I actually go through each one of them, I'll just give an example of a person who is sales focused.
Yes.
They are always out of the office. They are always looking for opportunities. They are always networking. And that's an excellent thing. But if that's the only thing you focus on, there are other aspects of your business that need your attention. But because it's not your personality to give those aspects attention, your business will tend to suffer. So as a result, we get to make people aware that you are short here, you are good in here, and none of the 4 categories of thinking styles I'm speaking about is bad for the business. Your thinking style is not bad. It's just that it's better when you know where you are falling. So if I may just
please share those with us.
Go through.
Before you start, that is essentially what we're saying, or would you be saying that in a business, ideally, you want a display of all 4 thinking styles?
Definitely. So even the assessments. So if, let's say, out of the 4 thinking styles that we have, you get 60% in one style, then that means the other ones will have to share the 40% that's remaining. Therefore, that 40%, for you to capacitate yourself properly on the other 3 remaining aspects, you need to bring in the right people, or you need to train yourself, or you need to put systems in place to ensure that the 40% where you lack, you do not expose yourself in terms of risk of your business not working well. So what we then do to entrepreneurs is we'll always say, do not come with that thing of, oh my God, I'm a manager profile, so that means I will never be able to do sales. Now that you know that, what can you do with that information? So to go through in terms of the thinking styles that we, on our assessments, we put together is a manager type thinking style. So this is someone who likes order. This is like someone who likes organizing. This is someone who likes plans. This is someone who would be great as a project manager because they put tools together to be able to get to something that needs to be done. So if you've got this kind of thinking style, you like order. So if your business is in chaos and things like that, you will not be coping. You will actually be frustrated with everything. Hence, when we come into you, we're like, you know what, let's put systems in place to ensure that you can control the environment. That's where your CRM systems will come in for certain people. That's where in scheduling will come in for certain people because you like order. So let's do that for you. The second personality type is, or rather thinking style, is a salesperson or a sales focused person. This is someone who likes to be with people. This is someone who loves the idea of interacting, coming up with new ideas in terms of where they can make money, in terms of where they can engage people to say, you know what, I know in South Africa we've got these issues. How can I, using my business, solve these issues and make money out of? So that person is sales focused. So now, if you try and contrast the manager and the salesperson, you look at a manager looking at an environment that is controlled. A salesperson, you're looking at an environment where he is socially aware of what's happening around the world, around his community. Third person is a pioneer. A pioneer comes up with solutions and ideas for every problem. The issue with a pioneer, however, is implementation. He will always come up with great ideas, but lacks the tenacity to actually implement those ideas. So as a result, if we find that you're a pioneer, you always come up with great ideas, one thing we have to do is to try and ground you in actually executing those ideas. If people always, every week, they come, no, I I've got this idea where we're going to make money. I'm like, great, I like that. Let's implement. Following week, you're telling me, no, I saw somebody else. This is what they want. I think this one will work. If we never test anything and we always come up with ideas, they will always remain ideas until we go to the market, until we get validation or rejection from the market. Then we can pivot if we need to pivot, or we can still stick to that idea if it works out for us. So a pioneer is someone who's like that, the creative, they would call them left brain, I think, in terms of
Yeah,
a creative.
correct.
Yeah. So that's the kind of person would be in terms of a pioneer. And lastly, is a specialist. So a specialist person is super experienced in a certain field, in that if I'm a project manager, I know everything about project management, or almost everything about project management. And in knowing so, I am able to let people use my experience, use my background, and be able to come up with ideas to either innovate or come with better ways of doing that one specific area. An example is neuroscience. Someone who is experienced in neuroscience or neurology, that's their specialty, and they can come up with ways, but it still relates to neurology. We cannot now say they must know good something in pediatrician or something like that. Entrepreneurs who have experience in logistics, they know the seasonality of logistics, they know the laws in logistics. That person is an experienced, as well as what we call a specialist in terms of their thinking style. They thinking around their experience.
These are really interesting areas because it reminds me of the human brain, which talks to your creative, your organized,
Yes.
the four different
Yeah.
quadrants. But what is
Yeah.
interesting is your specialist. I thought you were sort of going to go to an obvious fourth quadrant, but that is, in terms of an entrepreneur, is a very interesting profile individual. So,
Yeah.
and would definitely affect how they approach their business.
If you are someone who's a specialist, imagine I'm trying to tell you right now that you are a specialist, you sell books, and I'm this young person who's 25 and come and tell you, we need to do social media. You will tell me many reasons as to why social media is a bad idea. You will tell me about the writing culture. You will tell me about word association, which is not as hip in in technology. You will tell me about the history of writing. You will tell me about publishing, all of which you have experience in. But
Yeah.
because you now need a pioneer, someone who comes up with new ideas, we will team you up, or rather focus our support in terms of making sure you are aware what you're missing out when you are focusing on your strengths only.
It's very interesting. One of the concepts as well that we engage with Sibusiso is the value chain as an entrepreneur. So it's almost once they identify that they are one stronger in one of those, because the reality is you will always be more in one area, as you said, and to find those in your value chain, whether it's people you bring in, mentors, support, that force those other areas. So exceptionally interesting. And tell me, I know we've also discussed around the business cycles. Is there an entrepreneur's thinking, how does that affect also the cycle of where they are in their business?
Definitely. All right. So with regards to, I suppose in South Africa, the first things first that we can speak about is the stats that got released a couple of days ago, that our GDP quarter to quarter had reduced by a half, 50%. Yeah. And automatically that says we are in a recession. Automatically that says we things are not going as well. And I think the rest of the world is experiencing that. And so what we looked at was the linking of a person's thinking style as well as where their business is. And in terms of, let's say, the business cycle, business cycles, there's about 4 of them. Your entrance, your growth, your maturity, as well as a decline or an acceleration. In terms of your thinking style, if you are in any of these, these business cycles, you need to be aware how your thinking style will influence either you grow or the business goes down. So I'll put an example in terms of the first business cycle, so to say, being an entrance. So this is someone who is trying to get into the market. They do not have experience. They do not have infrastructure. They do not have resources. They do not have networks. They do not have capital, so to say, to fall back on. So what kind of thinking style would match this person? This person needs to either be a salesperson so that they know how to sell, they are aware, and they're looking for opportunities, or they can be a pioneer, coming up with ways to actually get the resources. If you get given limited resources, it's how you come up with ideas on how to use those resources that will allow you to actually be able to say, I'm now launching my business into the market. And this is one thing that we like with entrepreneurs as coming up with ideas. We're like, okay, we understand you've got this idea, but tell us the plan on how to enter into the market. If we do not see that plan, then we can already know what kind of thinking this person has. Is that of an opportunist, but they do not execute in terms of their ideas. And so hence, in terms of your thinking style, entrance being number one, you need to be a sales focused person if your business is at that level. Number two, we are looking at growth. So this is when you have entered the market, there's at least out of your targets, you've met 40% of your targets. There's growth opportunities in terms of cash is no longer that much of an issue. A lot more people are wanting your resources. Now, this is where planning needs to come. This is where a systemization needs to come. This is where processes needs to come. And the perfect person for such is a manager type personality or a manager type of thinking style. A manager will be able to say, you know what, I see every time people come and buy our shop, we now have less products. What is happening? A salesperson will say, no, it's because we have sales. But a manager will be like, no, it's because we're not managing our processes properly. So as a result, let's put processes in place to make sure that when the salesperson brings us the sales, we have the product to sell. And hence, when you are now starting to grow, you need to move away to completely focusing on sales to now also start to be a manager and putting processes in place, some automation if needs to be. And that is why the link between the link between your thinking style as well as where your business is at. And then thirdly, we are looking at maturity. So you were the new kid on the block, your business started thriving, a lot more people started buying your product, and now we are looking at, you now have the market share. It's up to you to lose. What do you do to actually keep your business afloat? What do you do to ensure that people continue buying your product? Your systems are in place and you don't lose money unnecessarily. And in terms of that, we are then looking at either a or a manager type of person. A specialist in that you become industry aware, and a manager in that you do not want to lose money unnecessarily. You don't want to lose the market unnecessarily. And that is why whenever we're linking, to say your business is at a point where this is as far as it can go. There's at some point where, you know, either we need to innovate or move to the next market, so to say, or add more products. That's where we look at, okay, let's manage what we have. Let's make sure that what we have does not die. Let's make sure what we have, we do not waste it on unnecessarily paid expenditure or unnecessary activities that don't bring value into our company.
Correct.
And then lastly, we're then looking at, the decline. So most people will say, I disagree with you. We don't call it a decline. We call it a reverse of, of the entrance to the market. Because in there, you have a choice. You can consider it to be a decline where your business starts dwindling, or you can consider it as an opportunity for you to innovate so you become better in terms of your business. That is, you now look at coming back and bringing in that pioneer type of mentality. In there, you're now saying, we've sold everything, we've put in every market, but what can we do to ensure that we don't die? If you were the person that was selling, I know that iconic classic example was back in the day, Kodak film cameras and stuff like that.
Yeah.
those guys lacked a pioneer within their company, in that the company died when they were actually needed. They lacked a pioneer, and what they wanted to be was to be a specialist, or a manager. Manage what we have and stick to it. Be specialist in that we've been doing this since 18 whatever, but they forgot the fact that market changes. And as a result, if you are dominant in the market, you best believe there's people that are coming for you, and they are coming with innovation, because they are coming with that mentality of a salesperson, because they are hungry for the market share, which is the market share you have. And if within your team you do not have that kind of a person, you're going to find yourself falling short, and you're going to find people being after your market. So ultimately, when you are at a decline, you are looking at opportunity. Either I go down, or I continue with innovating and become better at this thing. And so, that's how you link your thinking style as well as where your business is at. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are in startup phase, but already behaving like specialists. And in that they already say, this is my market, this is where I specialize. If you are in events, nothing is stopping you from organizing training sessions.
Yes.
If you are good at something, like something that relates to your market, you can go for it. But because you are treating yourself as a specialist, as if you now have experience in this industry, you forget about the associated industries in it. And then that can be dangerous, and that can also reduce the opportunity that you can have within the value chain of your industry, so to say.
Ironically, you mentioned Kodak. Very good friends of ours were actually the main distributor. So I'm thinking maybe we should get them in here, and I know personally how they reinvented their business. So it's a story quite close to home for us. So Sibusiso, Leap works with amazing entrepreneurs, and SME supports corporates in their ED programs. Always loved the imagination and the relevance that you brought to any program. Given the thinking and this very way of treating each entrepreneur uniquely, what kind of examples and stories would you like to, if you can, if we've still got 2 or 3 minutes, that I'd love to hear if you've got any examples that were shared or that you've experienced in your journey.
No, definitely. Specifically, without mentioning names, we had a beneficiary who is super sales focused, and the one thing that was an issue was they always complained about, I've made so much money, but I've made so much sales, but I don't see where the money is going. And we realized one thing, that he was a salesperson, and don't get me wrong, he was getting the sales. But when we asked, okay, how do you capture the sales? How do you follow up on customers? There was no system. There was no a process of how to say who paid me, who I still need to claim from, and what am I buying my products at? What is my cost price? The one thing he wanted was to say, let me go to the market and find as many people to sell to. And as good as that is, he does still need the idea of knowing how much money you're making, knowing how much money I'm losing when I'm selling these products.
The planning and the process management.
That process management, but as you can see, because he was a salesperson, he wanted to sell. That was his passion. And so what we had to do was to bring in an accounting system in place, as well as someone who will assist him in the office, to ensure that when he does the selling on the street out there and is making networks, at least there's someone who will be doing the manager role in terms of the company. Yeah.
And did you see the impact of that?
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, in that, because he is a salesperson, I'm sure entrepreneurs out there will tell me that, you know what, whenever one business gets to be finished, if you're a salesperson, you move on to the next one. After completing, the gas distribution business, rather not completing, but after seeing where that business was going, he then ventured into a similar or related business venture, which was now to sell the hardware of rather the stoves, heaters and stuff like that relate to gas usage. So this was someone who wanted to just sell gas, but because they then understood the processes of selling gas, and then they understood how good they were in sales. But because we added the next person at the office who was remaining behind, he was then able to say, you know what, I now understand I can attack this market as well. And so as we're speaking, the beneficiary has got more than 6 people employed. There's 3 or 4 trucks, I think, in terms of the one that he is now employing people and distributing this. And this was all within a period of 3 years. So where he is right now is him getting into the market. So in terms of entrance, he's past entrance. He's now at a growth phase. And at the growth phase, the system processes that that need to be implemented, the systems that need to be put in place. And so us using this process allows us to be able to understand what could happen even in future before it gets there, when we understand the person behind the business.
So reading between the lines, I think this is this example is a perfect case study of a enterprise supply development program with a corporate, if I realize the product, and just what you've created. What a success story. I think, you know, if we can have more of that, it would start to really show the naysayers that when enterprise supply development is done correctly, as Leap has done with this project, the company wins in their supply chain. Look at this small business and he's employing. It's what a phenomenal success story.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's people that do not understand, rather the people that communicate the like you said, the naysayers that communicate how ESD programs are not efficient. But ESD programs can be amazing when we look at the beneficiaries as partners, not as just beneficiaries. And the corporates look at so we have, let's say, in terms of the enterprise and supply development, the 3 most important stakeholders in it: your beneficiary, the implementers, as well as the corporate sponsor. If those 3 people are all partners, it makes for an amazing program. It makes for an impactful program, not only for the SME, but also for the corporate client, in that you tie the ESD program as a strategy for the corporate client, not just as a giveaway. No, we're giving out this product. No,
just a quick compliance exercise to make the
Once it's like that, no one wins in there. But when you say we are looking for gas distributors to start selling our products into the township market, because with our infrastructure we cannot reach the township market, you get situations where entrepreneurs are excited to launch the businesses into the township, which is where they live. And you as the corporate get to win because you have an increase in terms of sales, and the people that are implementing the project can report on impact to say, this is what we've impacted. We've now employed more than 6 people that feed their families. That is supposed to be how enterprise and supply development is run. And yes, we have problems. Yes, we have got issues, and there's challenges. But
at the end of the day, you're dealing with individuals, you're dealing with market dynamics. So it's not, someone said to me, it's not cookie cutter.
No, definitely.
You know, I think if the intent is right, it can be very successful. And that's what we really appreciate and really support what Leap does in this market. Sibusiso, we are out of time. I think we could spend another half hour by the sounds of it. I'm dying to know more stories. Maybe we can even schedule another clinic. I think we might need to do that. To our audience, if you'd like to know more about this, or how can you benefit as a small business, we do know, as a small business, Leap is always looking for partners for the ESD projects. And as you can hear and see, they very much talk about partners, and they walk that journey with you and match it correctly to those programs. So if you're interested, their details are below, and just keep watching the SMME Clinic. Hopefully this was useful, and maybe if you'd like, comment below and tell us what you think your thinking style is. I think it could be very insightful. So thank you very much, Sibusiso. Keep up the good work, stay safe, and we will chat soon.
Thank you very much, Debbie. All the best, guys. Go out there and kill it.